I always knew my sister had a competitive streak, but I never imagined she would go this far. Growing up with Elena meant living in a world where anything that belonged to me somehow became hers. To clothes, friends, opportunities, even compliments. If someone told me I looked nice, she'd suddenly complain loudly that she felt bloated just to redirect all attention back to her. If I got a good grade, she would tell everyone. She helped me study. It was exhausting, but as adults, I assumed we'd grown past all that. Maybe naive of me, but I truly hoped marriage would be my moment, something she couldn't twist into another performance for herself. The week of my wedding should have been peaceful and full of excitement. Instead, it felt like being trapped in a pressure cooker with the one person who knew exactly which buttons to press. Elena was the maid of honor because my mom insisted it looked better to keep family in that role. I agreed, stupidly thinking it might bring us closer. But the second she arrived at the rehearsal dinner, she was already in rare form. "You look tired," she said, squinting at my face before glancing at Mark, my fiancé. "I hope she's not turning into a Britazilla on you." Mark laughed awkwardly, trying to brush it off. He didn't grow up around Elena. He wasn't used to the way she coated insults in sugar and expected people to swallow them with a smile. "She's been perfect," he said gently, squeezing my hand. "We're excited for Saturday." Elena's eyes flicked to my engagement ring, the one Mark had custom made. She never hid her jealousy of it. "Must be nice," she said, tapping her own bare finger dramatically. "Some of us are still waiting." I could almost hear the unspoken words. "And whose fault is that?" I ignored her and went back to checking on the seating chart. The planner was asking questions, the flowers were being delivered, everyone had their own tasks. But Elena somehow kept circling back to me, like a wasp that refused to leave. When the dress fitting came the next morning, I felt a kind of happiness I hadn't felt all week. Standing on the pedestal, seeing myself in that gown, my gown made everything else fade. The satin, the lace, the way the bodice hugged my waist perfectly. It felt like everything I had dreamed of as a little girl. Elena sat across the room, pretending to scroll her phone, but I could see her watching me through the mirror, studying me, measuring herself against me, comparing, always comparing. "That's the dress?" she asked finally, her voice flat. I imagined something flashier. "You sure you don't want something more dramatic? You kind of disappear in that one." I didn't disappear. I looked like me, a calmer, more beautiful, more grounded version of myself. That was the whole point. My mom, as usual, jumped to Elena's side. "She's just giving feedback," she said. "You know how honest she is." Honest wasn't the word. Strategic was more accurate. Still, I refused to let her ruin this moment. I turned back to the mirror and let myself feel it. The peace, the softness, the anticipation of finally becoming Mark's wife. Every little detail on that dress meant something to me. I picked it after months of searching. I felt like myself in it. I felt like the bride I always imagined I'd be. That's why what happened next hit so hard. The morning of the wedding rehearsal, I woke up early, excited, nervous, fluttery, every emotion all brides feel. I went to my closet to check the dress one more time before heading out, but the zipper pouch that covered it was empty. The hanger was swinging slightly, as if someone had moved it recently. The dress was gone. My chest tightened instantly. I dug through the other garment bags, thinking maybe someone moved it to protect it. I checked the bathroom, the linen closet, under the bed. Nothing. My dress wasn't in the house. "Mark?" I called out, my voice shaking. "Did you move the dress? Please tell me you moved it." He came into the room half asleep. The second he saw my face, he snapped fully awake. "What's wrong?" "My dress. It's gone." "It's gone, Mark. It's not here." We tore through the entire master suite, then the hall closet, then the guest rooms. Nothing. I could feel panic rising like a wave pressing into my throat. Who would take it? Why? It wasn't like we had strangers coming in and out, only family. Only people staying in the house with us. Only people with access. Mark wrapped an arm around me. "Okay, it has to be somewhere. Your mom? Maybe she took it to steam it? Or the planner?" I shook my head. "No one touches that dress. No one except me. And one other person," my mind added darkly. One person who had made passive-aggressive comments all week. One person who had disappeared last night for almost an hour without explanation. One person who had a history of borrowing things and returning them ruined or claiming she had no idea where they went. I didn't want to believe it, but the thought came anyway. Elena. Mark must have seen something shift in my expression because he touched my shoulder gently. "What are you thinking?" I hope I'm wrong," I whispered. "But Elena was acting strange last night, and she hates this wedding. Attention. She keeps making comments like she wishes she were the bride." Mark frowned. "You don't think she'd actually?" I didn't want to say it out loud. Saying it meant admitting that the sabotage I feared was real. We went downstairs and found my mom and Elena eating breakfast like nothing in the world was wrong. Elena had her hair freshly curled, sitting in her silk robe like she was the one getting married. When I told them the dress was missing, my mom gasped and clutched her chest. "But Elena?" Elena didn't even look surprised. She just chewed her food slowly and said, "Maybe you misplaced it? You've been stressed. Brides forget things all the time." I stared at her, hard, and she wouldn't meet my eyes. That was my first confirmation that something was deeply wrong. If you find this story good, please like and subscribe our channel. It's free for you but helps us a lot to keep sharing real stories like this. Mark tried to keep the peace, but the crack in my voice kept exposing how terrified I felt. I was supposed to walk down down the aisle in days. And my dress, my perfect dress, was gone. People began whispering. Guests arriving early heard the rumor that I lost it. Aunts started calling me scatterbrained. Cousins snickered behind their phones. Elena watched it all unfold with a pitying smile that didn't reach her eyes. My helplessness grew with every hour. When Elena finally leaned in that afternoon, pretending to comfort me by rubbing my arm, I smelled her perfume, the same scent that lingered faintly in my closet. That was the moment I knew. She took it. She stole my wedding dress. She stole my moment. And this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The rest of the morning felt like drowning slowly while everyone stood on the shore, insisting I was imagining the water rising around me. I searched every room again, every drawer, every closet, every suitcase, hoping I'd somehow overlooked a giant white wedding gown. But there was nothing. Only my reflection in the mirror, looking panicked and exhausted, with makeup smudges under my eyes and hair I hadn't even brushed yet. It wasn't how a bride was supposed to look days before her wedding. Elena, on the other hand, floated around the house like she was on vacation. She hummed while curling her hair. She made avocado toast in my kitchen like she lived there. She offered helpful suggestions like, maybe you shouldn't have chosen such a boring dress if you were this worried about losing it. Each comment chipped away at whatever emotional stability I had left. It wasn't just the dress, it was the humiliation of knowing no one believed me. And Elena knew that. She knew she had the upper hand because my entire life, whenever she did something cruel, she found a way to twist the narrative until I ended up apologizing just to restore peace. But not this time. I refused to let her win. The problem was, I still had no proof. Mark tried to keep me calm, but even he couldn't deny how suspicious everything looked. We'll figure it out, he kept saying, rubbing my back gently. Even if we can't find it, we'll make sure you still look stunning. I'll help you buy another one today. I felt my throat tighten. It's not just about looking pretty. It's my wedding dress. The one I chose. The one I cried over when I said yes to it. And someone in this house took it. He kissed my forehead. I know. But then my mom walked in, arms crossed, face full of judgment. Enough. You're causing unnecessary stress for everyone. You need to stop blaming Elena. She would never do something like that. The irony made me laugh. It was a bitter, broken laugh that startled even her. She's literally done things like this our whole lives, I whispered. Or have you just forgotten? Mom waved her hand dramatically. Children fight. Siblings share. You were always so sensitive. The word she used whenever Elena insulted me, whenever Elena stole something, whenever Elena got away with something. Sensitive was code for, your feelings are the problem, not her behavior. Mark tried stepping in. She's not imagining things. The timing, the comments, the way Elena has been acting, it's wedding stress. My mom snapped, shutting him down as if he wasn't the man I was about to marry. And frankly, if she thinks she's ready for marriage, she needs to get a grip on her emotions. I felt heat rush up my neck. Wow, I whispered. Nice. But it didn't end there. Within the hour, the rumor had spread through the entire bridal party. Mark's mom texted me gently. My cousin called and asked, how do you lose a whole dress? One bridesmaid asked if I was pranking everyone. Another offered her old prom gown, in case of emergency. Meanwhile, the one person who knew the truth, who held the truth in her smug little hands, played innocent the entire time. Around noon, when I came downstairs for water, Elena was sitting cross-legged on the couch, showing my aunt wedding hairstyles on Pinterest. Oh, she said dramatically, gasping when she saw me. Did you find it? No? That's so awful. Poor you, poor you. She said it with the same energy someone might use to say, bless your heart, fake sympathy dripping from every syllable. I clenched my jaw. You know something. I know you do. Elena pressed a hand to her chest. Me? What would I know about your missing dress? Her tone was so theatrical guests could have mistaken it for a rehearsal for a soap opera. Drop it, Elena, I said, my voice low. I'm not playing this game anymore. She tilted her head, smiling like I had just told a cute joke. Wow, someone's spiraling. My aunt looked between us suspiciously. Girls, this is not the time. But that was the point. For Elena, this was always the time. Chaos was her arena. Family events were her stage. And my wedding? That was her biggest opportunity yet. Mark insisted we go to the bridal shop. Maybe they could somehow replace the dress. They couldn't. Mine had been custom altered, tailored to my shape, neckline adjusted, waist cinched, hem lifted. The seamstress looked devastated. She couldn't help, but she brought out a few off-the-rack options. I tried them on, one after another, but nothing felt right. I stood in the fitting room, wearing a dress that fit like a paper bag, staring at myself under fluorescent lights, feeling tears build. Mark stood outside the curtain. Let me see. No, babe. Let me see you. I stepped out reluctantly, and he exhaled softly. You look beautiful, he said. It doesn't feel like mine, I whispered. It feels like I'm trying on a costume. He took my hands. If you want, I'll help you search all night until we find the dress. But maybe don't give Elena the satisfaction of ruining your day. If we need to pivot, we'll pivot together. His words were kind, but the betrayal stung too deep. I didn't want to pivot. I wanted my dress. I wanted the moment I'd dreamed of. I wanted to feel like myself on the most important day of my life, not like someone scrambling to fix a disaster someone else caused. We ended up buying a simple backup gown. It was fine. That was the problem, it was just fine. I didn't want fine, and Elena knew it. When we returned to the house carrying the garment bag, Elena sat at the kitchen island sipping iced coffee like a queen surveying her kingdom. New dress? She asked innocently, eyes sparkling with satisfaction. Did you find something less forgettable this time? I inhaled sharply. You're a monster. Her smile widened. I'm just being honest. Isn't that what you love about me? I walked away before I snapped in front of everyone. Later, while I was upstairs fixing my hair, my bridesmaid Leah came in and hesitated at the doorway. Her expression was stiff, nervous. I don't want to cause drama, she said quietly, but earlier today, I saw Elena near your room. I turned toward her slowly. When, around 1 a.m., I was downstairs getting water. She was going into your room. She wasn't wearing her robe. She was dressed, like she was going somewhere. My stomach dropped, and Leah paused, then lowered her voice to a whisper. When she came out, she was carrying something white. A chill crawled across my skin. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I didn't want to accuse her wrongly, but after seeing how she's acting, Leah shook her head. I think she took it. That confirmed what I already knew. But now I didn't just need answers. I needed evidence, because Elena had humiliated me. She had mocked me. She had watched me suffer all day, and she thought she got away with it. But she didn't know that by morning, I was going to turn her entire world upside down. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the day like a loop. I couldn't escape. Every smirk from Elena, every dismissive comment from my mom, every whisper behind my back, all of it echoed through my head. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry. Angry at the years of being dismissed. Angry at always having to play the bigger person. Angry that even on my wedding week, the one moment that should have been about me, my sister had found a way to twist it into her own spotlight. Mark was asleep beside me, his hand draped over my waist in an effort to comfort me. He'd done everything right, but this wasn't his battle to fight. This was mine, and I was done being quiet. Around 1 a.m., I got up and walked to the bedroom window. The house was dark, except for the dim lamplight in the living room that someone must have forgotten to switch off. That's when I saw her Elena outside on the back porch, pacing in her robe, talking on the phone. She wasn't crying. She wasn't stressed. She wasn't worried about my dress. She was animated, smiling, lit up like she was narrating the most exciting gossip of her life. I cracked the window just enough to catch her voice. I swear, it's hilarious, she said. She's losing her mind. You should have seen her face. I almost feel bad. Almost. My breath caught in my throat. Then she laughed. As if ruining my wedding was a joke. I pulled back from the window, heart racing with a mix of rage and disbelief. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was enjoying it. The red flags weren't just red, they were neon. I wanted to burst onto the porch, scream at her, demand my dress back right then and there. But something stopped me. Anger would give her more power. Rage would give her more attention. What I needed wasn't an outburst. What I needed was the truth on record, undeniable, indisputable. I wanted receipts. The next morning, before anyone else woke, I walked the hallway of the rental cabin, checking the small security cameras the owner had installed near the stairwell and main hallway, except one. The one closest to my room was unplugged. Not accidentally. The cord was tucked behind a decorative vase. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it, the way someone stares at a gun lying on the ground after realizing the target was them. Ellen unplugged it. She came upstairs around 1 in the morning. She went into my room. She walked out with something white. My bridesmaid saw it, and now the camera that could have caught everything was purposely disconnected. The trail was forming, but I still needed more. When the household started waking up, I forced myself to act normal. My mom was already in the kitchen cooking eggs like yesterday. Hadn't happened. Elena sashayed downstairs wearing a white silk pajama set, hair perfect, like she was the bride of the house. Morning, she chirped, pouring herself coffee. Didn't sleep last night? You look tired. I forced a smile. Must be the stress. She smirked behind her mug. Such a shame about the dress. Hope today goes better. Hope today goes better. Her eyes glinted with satisfaction. But this was the moment the universe handed me my first real clue. While she was talking, she set her purse on the counter. The flap fell open just enough for me to see inside. A single bead, tiny ivory, shimmering, sat near the zipper pouch. My custom dress had beading. Unique beading. My heart dropped into my stomach. Elena noticed my glance and casually snapped the purse shut. Privacy, please, she said sweetly. I walked away before she could see my hands shaking. Later that afternoon, my makeup artist arrived early to prep for the rehearsal photos. As she unpacked her brushes and sprays, she whispered something that made me freeze. Your sister asked me yesterday what time you usually start getting ready on wedding day. I blinked. Why would she ask that? She shrugged. She said she wanted to surprise you with something, but honestly, she seemed more curious than excited. The red flags were piling up. Beads in her purse, cameras unplugged, sneaking into my room at a m, asking vendors weird questions, gloating to someone over the phone. She didn't just steal my dress. She planned it. This wasn't impulse. It was intention. After the makeup artist left, I found Leah, my bridesmaid, sitting on the balcony scrolling her phone. When she looked up and saw my face, she immediately set the phone aside. You found something, she said softly. I nodded. More than something. I found a bead from my dress in Elena's purse. Leah's eyes widened. Oh my god. And she unplugged the hallway camera. That's insane. I laughed bitterly. It is. But no one will believe me unless I have proof. Leah leaned forward. Then let's get get it. Her words lit something inside me. For the first time in days, I didn't feel powerless. I felt a spark, small but growing. What did you have in mind? I asked. Well, she said, lowering her voice, Elena loves talking to herself. I've walked in on her doing it in every mirror in this house. If she really did steal the dress, at some point she'll slip up. Especially if she thinks you've stopped looking. She was right. Elena had been waiting for me to crack. If I suddenly acted defeated, like I'd accepted the backup dress and moved on, she'd relax. She'd get bold. She'd brag. I'll bait her, I said. Make her think I've given up. And while she celebrates, Leah added. We set up a new camera. The plan started forming in my mind like a storm gathering shape. That night, after dinner, I made sure to speak loud enough for Elena to hear. Well, I guess it's gone, I said dramatically to Mark. The dress is probably ruined or lost forever. I'll just deal with it. Elena looked up from the couch, trying and failing to hide her triumphant smile. You're handling this so maturely, she said. I'm proud of you. The audacity almost made me choke. But it worked. She believed I had surrendered. Meanwhile, Leah and I excused ourselves, pretending to go rehearse vows upstairs. Instead, we quietly set up a tiny button camera on the dresser in the guest room right next to the full-length mirror. The same mirror Elena used to admire herself every night. We angled it perfectly, tested audio, hid the cord behind a decorative vase. Everything was ready. We dimmed the light just enough to make the room look unused. And we left. Hours passed. I pretended to watch a movie with Mark while my stomach twisted with anxiety. Every time footsteps sounded upstairs, I felt my breath hitch. Then around 11:40 p.m., Leah texted me from the top of the stairs. She's going, and the message read. My palms went cold. I waited until Elena closed the bedroom door before slipping out to meet Leah in the hallway. We watched through the cracked door just enough to see her reflection in the mirror. Not enough for her to see us. Elena stepped inside wearing my veil. My veil. She draped it over herself, holding the edges with a twisted smile on her face. Then she began whispering to her reflection, almost like she was confessing to a best friend who lived inside the glass. She thought she was the princess of this wedding, she murmured. Now she finally knows what it feels like to be second. My heart pounded in my ears. Elena slowly twirled, veil brushing the floor. She deserved it. Always acting like she's better. Always getting attention. She giggled softly. Now she'll walk down the aisle in a cheap backup dress, and I'll look perfect. Maybe someone will even mistake me for the bride. My breath caught. Then she said the sentence that sealed her fate. That'll teach her for choosing a dress prettier than anything I could ever wear. The camera caught everything. The voice, the confession, the veil, the motive, the cruelty, everything. Leah grabbed my hand tightly, her eyes wide. You got her, she whispered. No, she got herself. And tomorrow, she'd learn what it felt like when the truth didn't hide behind a smile. I didn't sleep the night before my wedding, not because of nerves, not because of excitement, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Avery's smirk, that smug little twist of her lips when she handed me a glass of water and said, try to relax. Losing your dress doesn't mean the wedding is ruined, unless you let it. She was enjoying this, thriving in it, feeding off my panic like it was entertainment. But by the next morning, something inside me had shifted. The helplessness was gone. The humiliation burned itself into something sharper, quieter, and colder. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I was going to catch her, and she had no idea she was already walking into the trap. Avery always underestimated me, always thought I was soft, emotional, to trusting, and honestly, she wasn't wrong, not until now. But everyone reaches a breaking point. I called my best friend, Mia, first thing in the morning and told her everything: the bead in Avery's bag, the suspiciously disconnected cameras, the sneaking around before the dress disappeared. By the time I finished explaining, Mia didn't even sound surprised. Your sisters always wanted your moments, Mia said. She just never had the guts to take one this big. Until now, I could practically hear the smirk in her voice when she added, so what's the plan? And for the first time in 48 miserable hours, I felt something like control coming back into my chest. I'm going to give her enough rope to hang herself, I said, and Mia said, perfect. She'll never see it coming. Avery walked into the bridal suite 2 hours later with her fake concern turned up to volume 50. She gasped dramatically when she saw my puffy eyes. Oh my God, you didn't sleep? Then she sat beside me, placing a hand on my knee like she was comforting a child. Look, if the dress doesn't show up, it's not the end of the world. Some brides have to settle. It happens. Settle. I had to swallow a laugh. She truly believed this was her moment to shine, that by tearing me down, she somehow looked better. I leaned my head on her shoulder, pretending to crumble. I just feel so stupid, I whispered. I think I'm losing my mind. Maybe I misplaced it. Maybe I'm the one who messed up. Avery froze. She wasn't expecting surrender. She was expecting fire, suspicion, anger, something she could manipulate. Instead, I was giving her bait. I sniffed. You're always so organized, Avery. Maybe you could help me check around later? You're better at this stuff than me. Her ego inflated like a parade balloon. She tried to look humble, but her eyes gleamed. Well, if you really want my help, sure. Maybe I can try to figure something out. Translation. She thought she'd already won. Mia caught my eye from behind the vanity mirror and gave a tiny nod. The mic was recording. The hidden camera in the bouquet vase was rolling. Now all we had to do was let Avery talk. But Avery didn't slip that easily. She stayed annoyingly seemingly composed for most of the day, floating around the suite like she was the one getting married, correcting people, asking for touch-ups, trying to charm the photographer into focusing more on her than me. Every little move screamed, look at me, I matter more, but not a single confession. She wasn't dumb, just arrogant. She needed the right trigger. So right before we headed back to the cabin to get things ready for the next morning, I said it loud enough for Avery to hear, I'm canceling the backup dress fitting. Avery froze mid-step. You're, what? I shrugged casually. There's no point. I already look bad enough in that dress. Might as well just wear something simple. Maybe I'll just borrow one of Mom's old gowns. Avery blinked twice, trying to hide her reaction, but her face twitched, because that wasn't the plan she expected. She wanted me, panicking, spiraling, begging for help, not giving up. So you're not searching anymore? She asked slowly. I shook my head with the most defeated sigh I could produce. That dress is gone, Avery. I lost. The universe clearly wants me humbled. The corner of her mouth curved just barely, but I caught it. She took the bait. That night, after everyone went to bed, Mia and I pretended to head out for one last rehearsal check, but instead, we parked around the corner and watched the cabin from the trees. Avery wasn't asleep. We saw her silhouette pacing behind the curtains. Then she did exactly what we were waiting for. She slipped into my old room. The camera was positioned perfectly. We watched from Mia's phone. Live feed streaming in as Avery closed the door, turned on the small lamp, and walked straight to the armoire. She opened it and pulled something out. The veil. My veil. My stomach twisted. She lifted it, draped it over her head, and stared into the mirror. Then she smiled. Wide, slow, and absolutely terrifying. She whispered, almost giddy, funny how easy it is to steal the spotlight when she just hands it away. Poor Emily. Always so clueless. Mia's jaw dropped, but Avery wasn't done. She twirled, laughing softly. She thinks she's the princess? She's always been second. Always. This time, everyone will see it. Every word stabbed deeper. Then she said something I'll never forget. When she walks down that aisle in that ugly backup dress, I'll look stunning next to her, like the real bride. My hands shook around the phone. Mia whispered, Emily, we got her. We really got her. But the worst part? Avery walked to the closet, reached behind the luggage, and pulled out the garment bag. My wedding dress. Perfect. Pristine. Untouched. She hung it up and stepped back, admiring it like it belonged to her. I should have worn this, she whispered. It was practically made for me anyway. And right there, right in front of the camera, she touched the neckline and said, tomorrow, she's going to break. I felt my throat close. Mia grabbed my shoulder. No, she is. And that's when the cold calm washed over me. Avery wanted to break me publicly. To the aisle, on my own wedding day. But now I had her confession, her motives, her cruelty, her plan. And tomorrow I was going to give her the shock of her life. The trap wasn't just set. It was perfect. The morning of my wedding started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, not the dreamy, romantic, this is my big day silence. This silence felt like the air right before a storm charged, heavy, waiting to explode. I woke up before my alarm, staring at the ceiling, letting the events of the last 48 hours replay in my mind. Avery's smirk, her wearing my veil, her voice, dripping with jealousy, her fingers brushing the fabric of the dress she stole. But instead of falling apart again, I felt steady, focused, like every breath was part of a plan. She wanted the spotlight. Today she was going to get it, just not the way she expected. Mia nudged me gently from the side of the bed. Ready? I nodded, more than ever. We both knew what was coming. The footage was saved in 3 places, 2 drives, 1 cloud backup. Avery could burn the entire cabin down and she still wouldn't escape this one. I sat up and whispered the line that had become my anchor. She wanted an audience. I'll give her one. By the time the sun started creeping through the blinds, the cabin was alive, photographers buzzing around, bridesmaids fixing last-minute details, my makeup artist setting up the vanity, everyone talking over each other about schedules, bouquets, timelines. It felt normal on the surface, like a wedding morning should, but underneath, I was watching Avery. She floated around the room, glowing like this was her big day, hair professionally curled, makeup flawless, nails perfect. Everyone complimented her, and she soaked it in like she was absorbing energy. Then she made her entrance. She walked in wearing a long, shimmering white dress, not ivory, not champagne, not soft blush, white, actual wedding, white, floor-length, beaded, sparkling, under the cabin lights, like she was stepping onto a bridal runway. The room froze. One of my bridesmaids muttered under her breath, is she serious? Avery spun slightly, pretending to adjust an imaginary wrinkle, her voice syrupy sweet. Oh, is this too much? I wasn't sure if it was okay to wear something nice since I'm maid of honor. Nice. She called that nice. She knew exactly what she was doing. She strutted across the room, looked at my backup dress hanging on the rack, and smirked. You're still wearing that one? I kept my tone soft, defeated, playing the same role from the night before. Yeah, I guess. It'll have to do. Avery patted my shoulder. Sometimes simplicity is charming, and you'll still look cute, cute, cute. Mia almost lunged at her, but I gently grabbed her wrist. Not yet. Let her think she's winning. Let her get comfortable. Let her get careless. When the makeup artist finally started working on me, she whispered quietly in my ear, I saw your sister earlier. She asked how long your makeup usually takes. Said she wanted to make sure she looks better in photos. I didn't react. just stared at my reflection. My eyes were calm, too calm. Avery's reflection appeared behind mine in the mirror. Her smug expression told me everything I needed to know. She still believed I was clueless. Hey, she said cheerfully, just so you know, photographers will get some solo shots of me with the bouquet for social media previews. They said it'll help build excitement. I blinked slowly. Oh, okay. Her grin widened at my compliance. She had no idea today was her funeral, the social one. At least, the ceremony was set to start at 3 p.m., but around noon, the chaos began. My mother barged into the bridal suite, frantic. Why didn't you tell me Avery bought such a beautiful dress? People might mistake her for the bride. Avery gasped dramatically. Mom, don't say that. I would never try to overshadow Emily, the performance of the year. I almost applauded. My mom turned to me. You okay with this, sweetheart? I forced a mild smile. It's fine. I'm not worried. Avery's face twitched. She expected me to cry. To beg. To accuse. But when I didn't react, she shifted. Her confidence faltered just a crack. Because when prey stops running, predators get nervous. To 30 p.m. The venue coordinator knocked on the door and said the guests were already seated. The aisle was lined with flowers. The music was ready. The groom was waiting. I took a deep breath, looked at Mia, and she nodded. It was time. Everything we planned was already in place. The projector, the speakers, the timing, the signal. All we needed was the right moment. Mia slipped the flash drive into my hand. This is it. I pressed it tight, then I walked out of the room feeling lighter than I had all week. Downstairs, guests gasped at Avery's gown, and she reveled in every second. She positioned herself at the front. She fixed her curls dramatically. She took photos as if paparazzi were chasing her. A bridesmaid whispered to me, she thinks she's the real bride. That was the point. Let her believe it, because the higher she lifted herself, the harder she'd fall. My groom, Adrian, finally saw Avery's dress and froze. He walked straight to me. Emily, is she insane? Oh, you have no idea, I whispered. Then gently, I placed the flash drive in his hand. His eyes widened. Is this? Show it right before my entrance, I said. No earlier, no later. He searched my face, worried. Are you sure? I smiled. I've never been more sure of anything. As the bridal party lined up, Avery pushed herself to the front of photos, front of the aisle, front of attention. Make sure to get my good side, she told the photographer, flipping her hair. The photographer exchanged a quick look with me. She knew everything was set. Guests rose to their feet. Music began playing softly. Avery turned to the crowd, glowing under the praise. This was her moment. This was everything she stole the dress for, and she didn't know she was seconds away from losing all of it. I stood hidden behind the wooden doors, heartbeat steady. I heard the subtle click of the projector, a tiny sound barely noticeable, but to me, it was the sound of justice loading. Avery took her first step down the aisle. People murmured at her boldness, some confused, some judgmental, some amused. Halfway down, she slowed, then stopped, because the lights dimmed. The screen behind the altar flickered to life, and in the silence of a packed wedding venue there she was. The ceremony continued, but Avery didn't. She stood frozen in the aisle long after the pastor began speaking again, like she was a ghost at her own funeral. Guests shifted uncomfortably around her until one of the attendants gently guided her toward the back row. She didn't protest. For the first time in her life, Avery had no script, no performance, no comeback. She just sat down, small, shaking, and silent. A strange calm settled over me as I reached the altar. It wasn't relief. It wasn't revenge. It was something deeper, like the weight I'd carried my entire life had finally lifted. When Adrian held my hands and whispered, I'm proud of you, a pressure behind my ribs eased. Someone had finally chosen my truth over her theatrics. Someone had finally seen me. The vows went smoothly, beautifully, warmly, my heart softening with every word spoken. But even in the soft glow of that sacred moment, a part of me remained aware of Avery at the back, curled into herself, drowning in the very attention she once craved. And by the time we kissed, sealing the marriage she tried to overshadow, Avery was already unraveling. After the ceremony, the air outside was crisp, filled with cheers and camera flashes. Guests hugged us, congratulated us, admired how gracefully we held ourselves despite the chaos, but the whispers lingered beneath every kind smile. I can't believe Avery did that. She always had jealousy issues, but this, stealing a wedding dress on her sister's wedding day? She needs help. She needs consequences. Every word was a stone being laid into the foundation of a truth she could no longer escape. And then, of course, my mother came rushing toward me. She looked rattled, shaken in a way I'd never seen before. Emily, she cried, grabbing my hands. I don't know what to say. I can't believe it's okay, I whispered, even though it wasn't. She blinked hard, tears forming. I defended her so many times. I told people she had a good heart. I told you that you misunderstood her. I am so sorry. I exhaled slowly. Those words were 27 years overdue, but they mattered today. I squeezed her hands. I know you love her. I know she's your firstborn, but she crossed a line I can't pretend didn't exist anymore. My mother nodded, covering her trembling mouth. Where is she? I glanced behind her. Avery Avery stood near the venue's stone archway, staring at the ground, mascara streaking down her cheeks. She looked lost, smaller than I'd ever seen her. She needs to talk to someone, I said softly. But not me. Not yet. Mom swallowed hard. Okay, I understand. And for the first time in my life, my mother put me before Avery. The reception started with awkward tension, but it didn't stay that way. Adrian's side of the family formed a protective circle around me. My bridesmaids stayed close, ready to intervene if Avery caused another scene. Everyone treated me not like a victim but like a woman who had risen above something dark. The projector moment became legendary within 30 minutes. Someone jokingly whispered, "This is better than reality TV." And I heard another respond, "No, this is better because she deserved it." But the real shift happened when Avery approached. She didn't walk toward me. She drifted slowly, hesitantly, like a child approaching a principal's office after breaking something valuable. Her dress, once shimmering confidently, now looked like cheap foil under harsh lights. Her hair, carefully styled, had wilted. Her heels clicked unevenly as she approached, the sound sharp and lonely. She whispered. My body tensed, but I didn't step back. Her voice shook. "Can we talk?" Mia immediately stepped beside me. "You don't have to talk to her." But I lifted a hand gently. "It's okay." Just for a moment, Avery's lips trembled with relief as she followed me to a quiet corner outside the hall. The wind caught her dress, making it flutter like a defeated flag. She looked at me differently, not with rivalry, not with superiority, not with bitterness. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. "Emily," she rasped. "I didn't mean I wasn't trying. I didn't think you didn't think I'd ever stand up for myself," I said calmly. Avery flinched. "No," she whispered. "I didn't think you'd show the video." A bitter lump tightened in my throat. So that was it. Not remorse, not apology, just shock that her throne finally collapsed. "You humiliated me," she whispered, voice breaking. "In front of everyone. My friends, our family, people from work." I cut her off sharply. "Avery, you humiliated yourself." I just turned on the lights. Her eyes flooded again. "You ruined my reputation," she cried. "No," I said bluntly. "You recorded yourself ruining it." She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no comeback. No argument. No spin. Her whole life, she'd relied on manipulation. But what do manipulators do when the truth is recorded? Nothing. They choke on it. Avery inhaled shakily. "I know you hate me right now. I know I went too far, but I'm still your sister." The words hung in the air, fragile and heavy. "Yes," I said softly. "You are." Her eyes lit with a flicker of hope. "But being my sister doesn't erase what you did. It also doesn't guarantee you a place in my life." The hope shattered. "I need space," I continued calmly. "And you need help." Avery blinked rapidly. "I'm not crazy." "I didn't say you're crazy," I said firmly. "But obsession? Envy? Sabotage? Self-worth tied to tearing me down? That's not normal, Avery. That's something deeper. Something you need to fix before we can ever have a real relationship." Silence. Wind rustled the trees behind us. Her breath hitched. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Finally. Not dramatic. Not manipulative. Just broken. It wasn't enough, but it was something. "I hope," I said slowly, "that one day you'll mean that fully. And not just because you got caught." She looked down. I turned to walk away. My dress brushed the gravel softly, and the moment my back turned, the power shifted. Forever. Inside the reception, people cheered as Adrian and I entered. The music rose, lights sparkled, laughter filled the air. I felt free. There was no dress she could steal, no spotlight she could take, no attention she could manipulate. Not anymore. Tonight belonged to me, not by force, not by revenge, but by truth. And when Adrian lifted my hand and kissed it gently, he whispered, "She tried to break you, but you didn't break. You became unshakable." I smiled, feeling every word settle into my chest like armor. Avery didn't ruin my wedding. She revealed exactly why I deserved this life, this love, this moment. She lost her power. I found mine. And that was the real wedding gift. Avery, on screen, wearing my veil, laughing, mocking me, holding my dress, confessing everything. She froze. The room froze. And I smiled in the darkness behind the doors. "Because this was only the beginning," you said. The video didn't start with words. It started with the sound of Avery's laugh. Soft, cruel, echoing through the speakers like the opening line of a horror film. The projector sharpened. And then there she was, Avery, standing in my old bedroom, spinning in my veil like she was trying on crown jewels. Guests gasped. Some covered their mouths. A few whispered her name in disbelief. Avery, halfway down the aisle, froze mid-step. Her heels slipped on the polished floor, and she grabbed a pew to steady herself. "What is that?" someone whispered behind her. The room fell into a heavy silence, the kind that hums with shock. Avery's face drained of color. The confident posture she carried all morning collapsed like wet paper. She glanced back toward the projection as if praying it wasn't real, but the screen kept going. It showed her lifting the veil. It showed her stepping into the mirror. It showed her lips curling into a twisted smile. "When she walks down that aisle in that ugly backup dress, I'll look stunning next to her," a mother in the second row whispered. "Oh my God." Avery's shoulders locked. Her breathing sped up. She tried to take a step forward, but her legs wouldn't move. Behind the doors, I could hear everything. The shifting seats, the murmurs, the shock, but most of all, I could hear the destruction of Avery's little fantasy. On the screen, she kept going. Poor Emily. Always second. This time, everyone will see that I'm the one who deserves the spotlight. A collective gasp moved through the room like a wave. Someone muttered, "She said that? About her own sister?" Avery put a trembling hand over her mouth, staring at her own reflection on the screen like she was watching a stranger. "Turn it off," she suddenly shouted. Her voice cracked, high-pitched, panicked. Nobody listened. The footage wasn't done. It cut to her digging behind my luggage, her hands pulling out the wedding dress she'd stolen. Several people stood up, some pointed, some shook their heads. I stepped closer to the door, listening to every beat of the moment she'd created for herself. The video zoomed in on the dress as Avery whispered, "I should have worn this. It was practically made for me." That was the breaking point. The room erupted. "Oh hell no, she's sick. Who does that to their sister? She stole her wedding dress? What kind of woman says that?" Avery spun around, desperate, shouting, "Stop it. Stop the video. This isn't what it looks like." But the next clip answered her, the one where she said, "Tomorrow, she's going to break." The footage went silent. The room didn't. People stared at her like she was something dangerous. A woman in the front row glared dagger sharp. A teenage cousin recorded her reaction. Someone whispered karma, loud enough for half the room to hear. Avery stumbled backward, tears welling up, not the emotional, soft kind, the panicked, exposed, cornered kind. Her mascara smeared, her voice cracked. She pressed her hands against her face like she was trying to erase her existence from the moment, and then the doors behind her opened. The music clung to the air for a second. Every head turned, including Avery's, and I stepped into the aisle. My steps echoed slow, steady, deliberate. I wasn't wearing panic. I wasn't wearing humiliation. I wasn't wearing defeat. I was wearing calm, control, a quiet fire Avery had never seen from me. My backup dress looked softer in the dimmed lights, glowing against the chaos she created. The veil was simple but elegant, and I walked with a spine that felt like steel. People moved aside instinctively, making space for me. The whispers softened into something like respect. Avery watched me approach with wide, terrified eyes. Her voice hitched when she said, Emily. Wait, this isn't." Please." I didn't stop. I didn't blink. When I reached her, she stepped back like she was afraid I might touch her, and she'd shatter. Her lips trembled. I didn't know. Someone must have. This is edited, Emily. You have to believe me." "Believe you?" I whispered. I leaned close, just enough that only she could hear the next line. "I believed you for 27 years. And this is what you did with it." Avery's mouth fell open, but no words came out. Behind us, the video ended. The screen turned black. Silence returned, but not the peaceful kind. This silence was judgment. It was consequence. It was the sound of everyone finally seeing her for who she really was. My groom, Adrian, stepped up from the altar and came toward me. The moment Avery saw him walking in my direction, she reached out like he might protect her too. He didn't even glance her way. He walked right past her and placed his hand gently on my back. "You okay?" he whispered. I nodded once. Together, we turned back toward the aisle, but Avery reached forward, grabbing my wrist. "Emily, please don't do this. Don't take everyone from me." I looked at her hand, then looked at her. "Avery," I said softly, the way someone speaks to a stranger they used to know. "I'm not taking anything from you. You threw it all away." The words hit her like a slap. She let go. Adrian took my hand. We turned toward the altar. Avery stumbled back, shaking her head like she was trying to wake up from a nightmare. No, Mom. Mom, tell them something." "You know I didn't mean it." Emily's overreacting, Mom. But my mother wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her eldest daughter like she'd never seen her before, like she was realizing she'd been defending the wrong child her entire life. "Avery," Mom whispered, voice cracking. "What have you done?" Avery fell silent. Her throat bobbed, her eyes filled with tears that finally were real. But it was too late. The damage wasn't reversible. Not anymore. The pastor cleared his throat, awkward but steady, and asked me quietly, "Do you want to proceed?" I looked toward the guests, my friends, my family, the people who came to support me. I looked at the man waiting to marry me. I took a breath. "Yes," I said. My voice didn't shake, not even once. "We continue." Avery flinched at those words, because in that moment, she realized she wasn't the main character anymore. Not in this story. Not in any story moving forward. As I began to walk toward the altar again, guests adjusted themselves, standing tall, giving me the entrance I deserved the first time. And behind me in the middle of the aisle she tried to steal, Avery stood frozen, small, exposed, unmasked. The aisle she wanted so badly, it swallowed her whole. And the day she planned to ruin for me, it became the day she ruined herself.